let's begin the process by drawing out the main shape of the blade. So go ahead and open up Cinema 4D, and I've gone ahead and saved out this start file, sword_start, but really the only thing it has in it is a back image in the right editor window here. And so if you want to, you can go ahead and create your own scene and just load that up. So to do that, you go to configure for the camera, go to back, and then under image, you just want to add this sword_image_plane.jpg, and this is going to be with your project files. If you bring in the scene file itself and it's not, you don't see it, you may have to relink this to the location of your own of your particular file. So that's going to be located here, and so we'll use this as kind of a guide when we're drawing out some of the shapes here in Cinema 4D. So the first thing that we'll concentrate on is this blade, and so this is going to be this whole portion here coming in down to right above the guard on the hilt, as the hilt starts down here. And so I think we want to keep it fairly low resolution, and I want to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go to structure, and we'll go to create polygon. Okay, and so if we look over here in our attributes manager, we can see that we have the ability to create n-gons, and so I'm going to go ahead and leave that on. So we can go ahead and define the resolution and how those edges are connected a little bit later, but right now I just want to get that outline. Okay, and so let's go ahead and we'll just draw this on the right hand view, so everything will be kind of at the same level, and we'll just start to come in and draw out a shape here, and I just want to get those sort of evenly spaced, and go ahead and bring that all the way down here. As we start to get into some of these curves, we may need to get the points to be a little bit closer together. Okay, but I'll just kind of space them evenly throughout the object. Okay, as we come down here, I'll just put a couple in that corner and then up to that end. Okay, I'll go ahead and let's add maybe a couple in here. Okay, and then as we come down here, just define the edge of that. And as we have those curves, we're not going to get too high res there in those curves. We just want to get the main shape here. Okay, as we get here, we'll just kind of go down inside this guard. Okay, we're not really too concerned about this res down here. We'll come back up here and go through the other side, and you can kind of see that in here, but we'll still be able to move those points around if we don't get them in the exact spot that we need them. And so we'll go ahead and start to match up the shape on the back here. Okay, and we'll do the same thing, kind of come up here, and you can kind of see this curve coming in here. I'm not going to build those notches in. We'll just kind of pretend like that is a straight line or curve, as it whatever the case may be. And we'll come up to the end here, and I'm going to go ahead and look at that n-gon that we just created. And so looking at this, we can now go into our point tool and start to move some of these points around. All right, so if there's anything that's clearly off of the surface, we can kind of move that slightly. We just want to get the a good sort of silhouette of the same shape that we've got here. Now, looking at this, you can see it's kind of hard to get that curve shape here with the number of points that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and say add point, and I'm going to add a point right in there. Now we can select that point and move it down, and we're able to get that shape. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. In some of these, it may not be as important, but we'll be fairly lenient on the number of polygons that we're using here. We're not going to be too stringent about the number and getting a really, really low number of polygons. We just want to go through the process of building this geometry, taking out into ZBrush, doing some sculpting, and then bringing back those maps and looking at those in Cinema 4D. So that will be our sort of area of concentration here as we go through this process. All right, so once we get our points sort of in the correct positions here, The next thing that we want to do is to come in and start to connect those across. So right now we have sort of one big end gun, and so what we want to do is create a mesh that sort of makes a little bit more sense. I'm actually going to add, instead of having this one here, I'm going to, I think, add one more. And so I'm going to go ahead and move this up. Let's go ahead and add a point right here in the middle and move it. So this is the number of points that I have. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 coming down the front. The number of points isn't really that important. It only matters if you want to follow exactly along with how I'm connecting these things. But really what I want you to get from this is just the fact that we're going to be connecting these. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, just the idea that of what we're going to end up doing here. So let's go ahead and start that. And so looking at this, I want to start connecting these lines across. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the knife. I'm going to choose a line, and I'll just choose single for now. And so in some of these areas, it may make a lot of sense as far as where these are connected. So these are fairly close together, so we can start here and connect that up over on that side. Okay, and so if you want to go down from here, you can see that we have these that are kind of right across from one another. Same thing here. So if we want to make a mesh that's fairly well organized, we can start to do that. But you can see we start to have some points up here. If you want to go ahead and click on that and click over to the side, you can do that. You can also eliminate that point if you'd rather take away the resolution. Like I said, I'm not going to be too stingy with the polygons here, so we'll go ahead and just start to connect these across. Now, this is fairly straightforward. We're just going from one side to the other side as we come up the side of our blade here. Okay. As we start to get down here, where some of these pieces kind of coming off, here's where we're going to start to get a little bit different. So we can kind of cut that off and then start to connect things that way, coming across here. And then we can kind of do the same thing here. So going ahead and connecting that, cutting that off. And then we can start to come in and connect these sort of across here. Okay, same thing down here. Kind of connect that. We'll just kind of connect that down here, and we actually connect it over on this side. Okay, and so in some of these areas we'll have, you can see we've got a quad here. We'll try to keep that for our sculpting, try to keep those quads, but you can see how you can start to get a little bit, start to be a little bit more difficult to get the exact connections that you might want here. So go ahead and connect that up. Down here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that point just by deleting that. So again, now we want to start to define the areas of our blades. You can see these sharpened areas. I want to have a line that comes in right along this blade. And so we'll go back to our knife, and let me just go ahead and continue these lines here. Okay. And now I just want to create a line that follows along with this. And because I'm creating a longer line this time, I'm going to turn off single. That will allow me to come in and just drop these all the way down here. Okay. Now this one actually comes back in a little bit more. So just follow that line in the artwork, and we'll get something that matches up with one another. And start to come down here, and now we'll kind of turn back in. Okay. And so we have now that line defining the actual blade part of the sharpened part of our blade. So let's go ahead and finish up our topology. We'll come in the next lesson and do that, and then add some thickness to our blade as well. So we'll go ahead and leave off at this point and come in the next lesson and complete the blade portion of our sword. So we'll see you in the next lesson.